And yeah, that ball bearing doesn't look so healthy. See, I'm no genius, but I think there's supposed to be, you know, multiple balls inside the ball bearing. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be doing more work on the Farmall H. In this video, I know I said I was going to do the steering gear, but I think I'm going to put that off a little bit. I'm going to be welding up my exhaust manifold a little bit here. I know this pipe here is replaceable, so I won't do any welding up on this pipe just because pipes are relatively cheap enough. I don't mind just replacing the pipe, but this exhaust manifold itself does have a crack in cylinder 4 exhaust port. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Here she is, and I'm going to take it off the tractor to weld it up properly, but for just getting it all mocked up, because obviously it won't be perfect with this off the tractor, I'm just going to grind some of this rust off with the old wire wheel and then just put some tack welds in to hold it in place. We'll take it off and then we'll weld it together with the flux core. I know it's a little controversial welding cast. I really don't know why. I've always had good luck with it, but maybe if you guys have your differences, drop in the comments below. I'd like to know why people don't like doing that. I've had good luck, but you know, each to their own, I suppose. Let's get to welding. Fire extinguisher so I can be safe. If it catches on fire, let's move it away from the tractor that'll be on fire so it's easier to get to. Nothing's on fire. Yeah, I never claimed to be a welder, but you know, with a flux core welder with an extension cord that's about 50 feet long with only 120 volts, I say I'm doing pretty good with what I got. Hope we can save on this gasket. Yeah, probably not. So the gasket came off with the manifold on the other side, but let's see if we can finesse this guy on off too. Just so we can get a good clean surface for when we put that back on. Yeah, that's good. And this way too, we can kind of get a gander at the valves, see their condition. We know that one of these cylinders was misfiring, which was this cylinder actually. And that must be an intake, and that's an exhaust. And here's our manifold here. Flip her around. I wonder if this is original or not. Probably not. We'll have to look for some IH marking on it or whatever. This gasket I think is original though. Oh, maybe not. I don't know if that's an IH part number. But whatever. Yep, I'm gonna need an exhaust manifold gasket on one side, but that's okay. It's the way she goes. Looking inside here, these look really good. I can't tell if this is carbon buildup or if this is just a bad casting from the factory. Not that it really matters. Yeah, I think that's just a factory casting, how they made. And looking at the back side here, I don't see any hidden pinholes either. So that's pretty sweet. I think our only leak is right here. I think the factory IH manifolds did in fact say IH on here, and it had the nice little stamp on it. And it might still be there actually. I think I do feel something here, so put that on a wire wheel and see if it cleans up and see if we see IH. But before we do any of that, let's weld her up a little bit more. And then hopefully I can stick this in the vise and then take this out with an actual pipe wrench, because I didn't want to do it on the tractor in fear that I break any more of these. And in fact, that's probably how that broke. As some guy saw this was rusty, probably wanted to back it off, put a lot of pressure on that, and pop goes the weasel. So here's my welding table set up, also known as a D16Y Honda Civic engine block. Single cam flavor, of course. So my welder is a flux core welder. I mean, it's MIG, but I only have flux core wire in it. And again, we're having a lot of power loss to my outlet over there in the shop, because this outlet is giving me trouble. And it's off of a 15 amp breaker, so you know how that goes. So I'm cramming as much power as I can into this. I turned down the wire feed a little bit in hopes it'll stop getting these boogers here. But it's going to work regardless. We just don't want any leaks. I don't care about the cosmetics. This is a workhorse, but let's give it a shot. Come on, buddy. A little bit more feed. Well, that looks awful, but it also looks like 250 more bucks I just kept in my pocket. Sweet. Now let's see if we can get this guy off. Might have to let her soak in PB overnight. I don't see any casting marks. She's probably just a generic replacement, but that's alright. Truthfully, I have my doubts about this working, but I've been surprised before. She's probably gonna need a little bit of sauce and some heat to break her free, though. And for me to lock this in place. Wish I had a pipe vise to put this in. Man, I feel like I'm going to squish the pipe before I even break it free. I don't want to break that pipe in there either. Or that will be $240 out of my pocket. Alright, time for some PB and a blowtorch. Something's got to give. Might be my back. The wrench is slipping. Well, folks, even with my extension here that's so long I can't even fit it in the camera shot, we're still not busting it loose, and it's just starting to cave the pipe in, and that would be an absolute nightmare if that actually just busted a hole through the side there. I mean, I could fix it, but I'd just rather not deal with that. So I'm just going to let this soak with PB overnight, keep hitting it with heat, and hopefully tomorrow will be a different story. So we'll have to give up on this header for now. I suppose while I wait, I can clean a few things up. Okay. Well, I know I said I wasn't going to touch it today, but I kind of want to now just because, well, that manifold's giving me trouble, so I won't be able to mess with that. And I got a little free time, so let's mess with this a little bit. Another gasket I'm going to have to buy. Wow. I don't think I've ever seen pure black grease before. So this tractor is definitely harder to steer than the other H that I have. So I was just thinking, maybe it has something to do with this right here. Not saying I'm sure, but kind of starting to think this might be my problem, because if I remember correctly, I believe this is supposed to take an oil and not a grease. See if we can. Oh yeah, look at all that play too. I don't know how much play that is. We'd have to measure that. And I know you could like flip these to essentially get a new steering gear, for lack of better words, but I thought that might have been the full circles. But I don't know. I'm going to be honest. I've never opened up a steering gear like this. I've just watched some restoration videos on them, but we'll get down to business here and figure something out. We'll dump a little bit of kerosene in there to kind of help flush things out for a little bit. All right, now that we got the kerosene just sitting in there, made sure to take my ring finger off this time. We'll let that soak. I hope this doesn't eat up the seal that is on that shaft, because I do know that these shafts are, I believe, made out of either a felt or a leather. And I don't know how that's going to retain kerosene all that much, but I mean, wherever there was a seal, it was pretty much long gone anyway. So I'm just going to let her cook for a bit, and I think what we're going to do is I'm going to go flip through my owner's manual on these and see what kind of grease goes in here and see how we can use to substitute it. As well as go pick up some more kerosene too, because I think I'm going to be needing this stuff in bulk. Well, before I buy some kerosene, I do have some old kerosene sitting around in a jug here, and I am going to soak the carburetor parts in them. Oh, that actually might be diesel. Yeah. Dang it, Grandpa. You put diesel in the kerosene can, but that's okay. That'll clean the stuff on up. Well, I'm going to go dump this in my truck, and then I am going to go pick up some more kerosene. And then here's the carburetor parts. Like I said, I lied. I said I was soaking them in gas, but I decided to change my mind. I'm going to soak them in kerosene instead, just because I really like the stuff. And I will make a future video kind of discussing the anatomy of these Farmall carburetors, or at least the one on the H here, because I did some reading up today on how these things work, and they're a lot more advanced than a regular carburetor, like off of a lawnmower, for better words, and I just really get a kick out of the engineering behind it. So I'll make an in-depth video on this carburetor in the future, but for now, let's go get some kerosene. Well, I just knew there'd be a day. I'd finally show up to this pump. And today is that day. Oh. I'd say this will be about, roughly 50 bucks worth of kerosene here. If it starts flowing. There we go. Pumping the scene. Pumping the scene. I wonder if I can run the F20 on this. Oh, it's $5 short. All right, got some fresh kerosene this time. Hopefully this stuff cleans as good as the other stuff did. Oh yeah, this tank's so old it still has a vent on it. I forgot to dye it red. Alrighty, I guess we could test to make sure our float works too. Oh yeah, she's floating alright. No bubbles. Well, it looks like our diesel and our kerosene is still holding in there just fine. That's good. There's no leakage right down here on the shaft. That's a good sign. I believe this is supposed to be more of a fluid-based lubricant in here though. I don't think it's supposed to be grease. So I'm gonna go verify that in the book. Okay, after some digging straight from the source here, I finally found the answer. So, steering gear compartment takes 1 pint of 90 weight oil. So some 80-90 gear oil is what I'll put in there. And another thing I'm going to try and do is tighten up the lash. Because like I said, you saw a lot of lash between that worm gear and the actual crescent gear, for lack of better words. I'm going to see if I can try and tighten that slash up a little bit. And tighten that lash up a little bit and get some more responsive steering on the old girl, because if we do that, that might make driving that tractor a lot more pleasurable. Okay guys, it's the next day, and guess what? I got her loose. I won't take her out anymore. You're just going to take my word for it that it does come out. And I found out that buying a new replacement exhaust pipe, this pipe here from Steiner, is cheaper than buying an 18-inch piece from Menards or somewhere. So I'm just gonna do that. Wait for parts from Steiner here. We are gonna paint the manifold tonight. I did stop at Menards, like I said, one of my favorite stores, and I decided to go with they didn't have quite, the header paint, but I think it'll work. 1200 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't think I'm going to get this manifold glowing red. So we're going to try this. It was a real hard decision between matte black, or semi-gloss. I decided to go with the semi-gloss just because I'm probably not going to do it with this tractor. But I was thinking, if I ever fully restored an H, would I want it shiny or matte? And I'm like, I'd want a little shine. I've been painting with matte a lot recently, but I want to go back to a little bit of shine. So that's pretty sweet. But anyways, I'll do this at the end of the night here because I don't really want to gas myself out of the shop at the moment. So now we're going to go back to working on the steering bolster. And taking a gander at the steering bolster here, it doesn't look like we've really leaked any fluids. So that's pretty sweet. So last night I really educated myself on these. This is a factory steering gear in here. I'm sure a lot of you guys know that, but I'm still learning. So this is just because it's a half moon, a half crescent, a half circle, a half donut, a half pizza, if you will, whatever country you're from, half burrito shell, etc. Anyways, so they did make replacements, but they were full moons, and all you had to do is flip them. Well, you can't really do that on this. And I was thinking, well, I'll just tighten up the lash, I'll tighten up the shims, kind of like in a differential. But with the way that this works, on a differential, you can move that pinion into the gear more. Well, you can't on this. It's a worm gear. The only way I can get this to mesh better with the worm gear is if I were to actually move that gear over more that way, or move the steering shaft more over this way. And that's just not possible. So the only fix to this is either a new half moon or a full moon. And I checked them out online. They're not that expensive. I can buy them used on eBay for like 50 bucks. and I could buy them new from Steiner for 80 bucks, but man, I can't really bring myself to spend that on, honestly, not that big of a problem on this tractor. If I was trying to fully restore this tractor, I totally would without a heartbeat. It's not that much to make something a lot nicer, but really this is a beater tractor, so that's why I haven't even cleaned a lot of the gunk off it or anything. But let's get the proper fluids in here, because I did look up, some guys, what they do is they do put like a grease on here, then they'll mix it with an 80-90 weight oil. I am gonna put just oil in here, 80-90. It does call for a 90 SAE 90, but 80-90, same thing. It'll work just fine. So I gotta find where the drain is on this though. I could have swore I read somewhere that there was a drain on the bottom, but well, I'm not quite sure where that's at now. I suppose I could just pop this off the end here and it'll drain it all out, but we'll figure it out. There was a pretty good deal at Menards though, so I was able to pick up some brushes for a good deal, so I'm like, oh, to heck with it. I'll use that to kind of clean up my surface here. And I'll put the cover on this without a gasket, just temporarily until we get the gasket in the mail. I suppose I can just cut one out of a Jack's Pizza box and make them, but they're so cheap that I honestly just don't mind buying the gasket. Long term though, I would like to buy more gasket material, especially for these exhaust manifolds, because I like making gaskets. It's fun. I was like, well, I could just use some Jack's Pizza boxes to make gaskets. I'm like, well, I don't think a hot exhaust would really bode too well with that. Yeah, this isn't evaporating as nicely as I wanted to because there's diesel mixed with the kerosene here. Because remember that diesel from the other day? Well, I just dumped it in here and I don't regret it. It helped clean things up. But yeah, I'll kind of go in here, I'll mix things up a little bit, clean things off a little bit more, and proceed to get diesel and kerosene all over the tractor. So when we first started up, we'll burn down the shop I just built. Yes! I don't even think I have insurance on the shop. I don't think. On the barn I do. Okay. 1¼ wrench. She's a little stripped, so I kind of got to hammer it on a little bit. Oh, yeah. Like a glove. All right, let's make it rain. Actually, if I had a brain, just kind of hold this. Sweet. Let's have a gander at her here. Oh yeah, she's dirty. Wow, who would have thought, you know, old tractor dirty. And yeah, that ball bearing doesn't look so healthy. You see, I'm no genius, but I think there's supposed to be, you know, multiple balls inside the ball bearing. So that's unfortunate. Or maybe it wasn't just me after all thinking that this thing was harder to steer. So that makes me feel a little bit better. Now for some used kerosene. Well, if I cared more about this tractor, I'd give her a real good, nice cleanup job, but That's good enough for what it's for. Now it just calls for a pint of gear oil. I put my gear oil in a power steering fluid bottle, funny enough. So I guess that means this has power steering now? Sure, we'll go with that. Now the one downside to running gear oil here is this will leak quicker. And I actually don't really think it leaks out the bottom of this steering shaft bolster from Gizmaboo, but it does leak a little bit out the seal out of the back where it actually gets the input from the steering wheel. So there is that, but for what it's for, it's not a big deal. One interesting thing to note here is that there's like a little piece of wire here that just kind of twists around. So I'm guessing this is a vent for this right here. So I'm guessing if pressure builds up and heat builds up in there by the hot radiator and whatnot, it can vent out the pressure so it doesn't blow out the seals with the grease or anything. But that's something worth noting that I didn't know about. So I guess that's kind of interesting. But we still have a little bit of leftover steering gasket residue here. Just gonna pry it on up here. Fortunately, it's all coming off pretty nicely. Just my luck. Oh. At least I caught it on camera. There we have it. We'll just put it on bare like this, and then when we get our new gasket, we'll put the gasket in there, and it'll be real easy to take this thing off. So, yeah. Didn't even bother cleaning the cap. Not gonna lie, I really do want to go over this thing more thoroughly, but I just can't bring myself to get that deep into a project when I'd rather spend my finances on the 504 that we'll be restoring soon here. And that's okay. It's just purely cosmetics on this tractor. Not saying I don't care about it, I do, but oops, sorry, I kicked the camera there. I do care about it, but it's just like a good beater truck or a beater car. That's why you like it, because you don't necessarily have to, if that makes any sense. Now there is one thing I will say before I start this tractor. Well, I'm gonna have to start to pull it out of the shop, but I'm pretty much just gonna pull it in the driveway immediately and then shut it back off. Then hose it down with the pressure washer, because we did get a lot of kerosene and diesel all over this, and I know that stuff likes to hang around. I know diesel is kind of hard to combust, but when it comes to kerosene, I don't know. I mean, it's basically distillate, right? So harder to blow up, but it doesn't mean it can't. And be at a hard spot on this engine here to put out the fire extinguisher if I had the cowl on and everything. So we'll do her right, pull her out and wash her off. But for right now where it sits, it should be fine. John Deere wrench to the rescue. On a hot summer night. Well, it's actually a cold fall evening. Now let's see, did this improve the steering ease of use a little bit? Maybe. Honestly, I can't see how it would have hurt anything. I think it feels a little bit better now that it's in the right oil. See, the thing about grease, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure it works fine. I know you're supposed to use like corn head grease in them or something. But the thing about it is it's just not as fluid, like normal grease, like red and tacky, as gear oil. You know, that can get in all the nooks and crannies when this is moving versus normal grease likes to stick. And I'm not saying it doesn't work, and it's good to use in a pinch, but I think I'd much rather use gear oil in this instance, but each to their own, I suppose. On to cleaning the carburetor parts here. Now this is that spark plug that got destroyed. Be kind of fun taking this guy apart. I don't know if it's actually destroyed. It might just be really carboned up. Remember, one of you guys in the comments are saying that this is normal. Or it just happens. And you know what? I like that optimism. It just happens. So I think what happened, personally, is that this gap got closed, in which it did. And then it just kept dumping gas in there, and it would either like half kind of burn because it probably kind of sparked somewhere, or it just run poorly, to be honest, and that's how that all built up. So let's give her a little bit of love and see if we can bring her around. Oh yeah, she's already been brought around. I understand spark plugs are cheap, but that required me running to the parts store, and that costs money and gas. And honestly, these spark plugs will be just fine. They're Champion D21s. And I know that spark plugs can get pretty serious to some guys, you know, I'm varying what you use it for. So, and also the type of spark plug might tell you the kind of life it had compared to like the last owner and how they ran it. I don't know. I'm not going to run this super hard. It's not like I'm pulling a 3-bottom plow or 2-bottom plow, whatever these are rated for. It's a 2-bottom. I think they're rated for 2 14-inch bottoms. Well, it's not going to be doing any plowing. It's just a beater loader tractor. And that's okay. Alright guys, please hit like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that hype button. That really helps the channel out. Seriously, it does. Since you guys have started doing it, the channel has been blowing up exponentially way more, especially when I drop F20 content. So I'll try and get more of that for you guys soon, but I'm doing what I can and what's available to me the day of. I've been working on this thing every day. Every day I come home from work, you know, I do what I need to do because I have a life. But then I come in the shop and just work on tractors, and I enjoy making content for YouTube, and I'd love to share it with you guys. So I really like that you guys are tagging along with me, and it's kind of a full-time job here, but I enjoy doing it. So let's just hope I'll continue to enjoy doing it. I don't know. Yeah, and I knew I said I was going to paint the exhaust intake manifold in this video. I'm not going to. I'm going to save that for next video because this video is getting long-winded. If you guys want me to start dialing it down to more 15 to 20 minute videos, I can. I tend to end up making longer videos, which I think is a double-edged sword, because me personally, I enjoy it. When I click on a YouTube video and I know I'm going to like it, I want it to be a long video. But if I'm coming to a channel and it's new, I'm not as appetized, for lack of better words, to click on a 29-minute video. I would rather click, oh, fixing a steering bolster, 7-minute video, boom, you know what I mean? So there's that. So let me know what you guys prefer. I'm sure you guys prefer longer videos too, but if not, let me know, and it'll be nice, because then I can make more videos, but they're smaller, if that makes sense. But yeah, and then that's the way the cookie crumbles. Stick around though for next video. I will paint that manifold next video and do more progress on the tractor here. There's still plenty of things I can do with it just sitting here. A lot more cleaning, for lack of better words. So there'll be a lot more cleaning and reassembling of the carburetor next video. And I will be cleaning the carburetor up too. And I think I'm gonna paint it. Should I paint it gloss black or should I paint it Farmall red? Might have a spray paint can of Farmall red sitting around. I don't know where though. Or I could just mix it up too. I have some mix up paint with the spray gun, but I digress. So thanks guys for watching the video, and if there's one more thing I'd like to add at the end of the video here is my dream tractor. Like, the tractor that I want in my collection more than anything else. And that is